One word description of last season. Transition.
One word. Frustrating. I think, I think we've come close a lot of the season. 4-day season was obviously, to go down is not what we planned. I just think there was lots of games that we didn't win that we probably should have. I definitely felt a lot of frustration this summer.
Encouraging. The reason I say that is because it was neither our greatest, it wasn't our greatest of seasons, but the end of the season, brought positive vibes, and looking forward, we are excited for what's coming.
Well, my one word would be confusing. So I think looking back on last season, 2022, real season of significant change, and I guess it starts before the season itself. There was a real delay on the fixtures, which I think was a sort of frustration for many, and we know how many members and supporters really wanted to understand the first game they'd be seeing and who it'd be against and where it would be. And that created a bit of a sense of uncertainty, I guess, and confusion a little bit around the club as to what was going on. So it's really important to us that we focused on what we could control, and a big part of that has been the culture of the club. We're hopefully, a club which is hugely welcoming for incoming staff, for players, for everyone involved at the club. And we decided to spend a bit of time away. So we went down to Newquay for a couple of days. This was all the playing staff, it was the non-playing staff. We all just got together and just spent a couple of days talking about what's important to us, what the values are of the club, what we'd like to see more of, what we'd like to see less of. Lots of really, really good ideas, and it was a really encouraging session to have people together in that way. So that was a really important part of what we did pre-season for everybody at the club, and something we hadn't done before. From a playing point of view, those guys obviously went off to the Middle East and had a hugely successful, I think, training camp over there. I think it was an interesting time for them because, again, Dale Benkenstein and Steve Snell were both very new in post. In fact, that trip to Newquay I've referenced earlier, it's the first time Dale had been in the country for 2 days, I think, at that point in time. And I think that trip was, from a playing point of view, the overseas one was hugely important. It gave them a chance to show what they had to the new coaching staff and the support staff, but also that important part time just to spend time together.
At the start of the season, they're very optimistic in terms of obviously the messaging, from the club in terms of the ambitions was fairly strong, and I think obviously it was disappointing to be relegated and then not be at the knockout stages of any of the white ball competitions. So my kind of looking at it in retrospect, it was really disappointing. Certainly feel as though there were numerous factors which if with the benefit of hindsight you think that we would do differently, but the reality is we didn't play decent enough cricket for long enough of the season and didn't seize the key moments. But I think looking I guess about around the performances and separating those from the results, I think there were some good performances across the season, and certainly we've got some really exciting players, younger and kind of the middle to older age of their careers. So I certainly think that we've got some exciting talent, and I think I'm really optimistic about that as opposed to pessimistic as we look ahead to next season. But within the talent we had in the squad, it was frustrating that we didn't do as well as we thought we might, but equally we did unearth and provide some opportunities for some new talent as well, which I think is encouraging.
We had a fantastic pre-season in Dubai. The boys gelled, we played some good cricket. So I think the confidence and the excitement levels of the lads were quality coming into the season. It was a massive honour and privilege to become the captain of this great team, to lead such quality men. Obviously it was going to take an adjustment, just going from playing, just focusing on your skills to actually, leading a great bunch of lads, That was always my worry, was that, my own personal performance was going to take a hit, but I think at this stage of my career, my performances will look after itself if I, buy into the team. So that adjustment just came naturally to me, so yeah.
To give the players some credit, I'm sure they were expecting a difficult season, so I don't think they were necessarily surprised by the quality of the Division 1 standard, but equally I think the standard is that good that it does take some adjustment from a playing perspective, and I think certainly our guys that now have had that experience of in Division 1 cricket will be all the richer for it. I think the when the Gloucestershire side got promoted in 2019. I think they finished third in Division 2 at that stage, and then the jump to, I think we were facing James Anderson and Ali Lancashire attack, which was taken over kind of 1,000 wickets, just with one person, I think, and the rest of the attack. It is a huge step up in quality from Division 2, just the sheer relentlessness of Division 1. But our players are aspiring to play international cricket, so certainly it's not something that they feared at all. But I think it would have been invaluable learning and experience, which I think is going to help our group grow as a team and individually.
It was really frustrating, not to come away with a win, especially that first game. I thought we played some good cricket. James Bracey, 100 was amazing, and the boys fought to the end. For a draw, Nasim Shah unfortunately went down in the middle of the game. He bowled 11 overs. I think if we had him there in the end, at the end of the game, we would have probably got over the line. But in saying that, it was a tough start to the season. Those first 6 games, it was a lot of lessons learned. And I think it'll just make us better in the future.
The schedule at the start of the season, those 6 games in a row were punishing, because certainly we seemed to be always fielding on the kind of last day of the last 4 days of the game, which was tough. But I think if I go back to the first game against Northants, the excitement that had built, and there was some decent performances in that game, and unable to call on Nasim Shah almost barely at all in that game, where we were trying to kind of force a win to bowl Northants out, was incredibly frustrating with how much kind of planning and resource which had gone into trying to attack the season. So I do think you start the season with a win, that does kind of take the kind of pressure off and manage the expectations. So I do look at that as a key point. Equally, across the season, across the first 6 games, we had a kind of number of injuries as well, which we were unable to put our best side out. And of course, all these things come across as excuses, but the reality is you want your best players on the field at every point, and I think if you have, then it's obviously a fairly true reflection of what your best side is. That being said, the resources that we've got at the club, we did have a big squad, and we were unable to do things well enough for long enough in those first 6 games, which of course puts on the back foot for the remainder of the season. So certainly we took some encouragement out of some of the performances. I remember James Bracey's 100 here against Yorkshire was absolutely fantastic 100, but equally we just didn't have the consistency across those performances from the whole side, but also we weren't able to have the continuity of selection for some other mitigating factors as well.
The introduction of Steve Snell and Dale Benstein, I think, have been huge for the club. I think we've got 2 very committed professionals, obviously Steve with a bit of a history here, but particularly around the talent pathway and the work he'd done previously at Somerset, which is really, really important to us, our own talent and providing opportunities for as many people from as many backgrounds as we can. To play elite cricket is what we're about in part. So I think Steve brings oodles of experience in that sense, but clearly his working relationship with Dale is very important, and very clearly early on we had 2 very driven individuals. Yeah,
Benke, is a great man. I think he's certainly not somebody I knew well at all actually before joined here, and he came across brilliantly in the interview process. But I think Dale is very, very calm with the group. He's extremely knowledgeable from a cricketing perspective in all manner of situations. He's been a very successful captain and coach for a significant period of time now. So his kind of jar of experience is pretty full, but within that, there's a huge amount of empathy and a huge amount of balance. Had some tough days at the start of the season or during the season last year, and he was very, very balanced and very calm with the group. I think the relationship he's got with the players, that they see that he's trying to help them grow, and they see the tactics in terms that we're trying to employ in order to kind of win games of cricket. And so I think there's kind of I've seen in the past coaches kind of react to every kind of slightest success or failure, and he's very, very calm around the group, which I think is a good thing.
Having Benke as our coach has been amazing. It's been refreshing. We in the beginning of the season did ask for change in the off season, and with Benke and Snelly coming up, change always can go both ways, but in saying that, it was a positive change for us. It took us a while all to find our feet, but once we did and we connected, it was amazing. Like I said, that feeling of what I know we can do when we connect, on and off the field is just awesome. So Benke has brought a lot of new ideas and new energies to us, and yeah, he's been awesome.
The T20 tournament was certainly something that we'd targeted. We felt we had an experienced squad, guys that played a lot of cricket together. So I actually don't think the pressure so much was there on the guys themselves. Almost an expectation that they were going to play well in it and believe they were going to win. Certainly we had some really experienced T20 players which hadn't played in the Red Bull side of the game, and the expectation within the camp was that we were going to play some really, really good cricket.
A lot of the guys who were playing in the Championship for the first few weeks switched out, and a lot of people came in to play T20 cricket. You know, the likes of Smudge, Van Meeker, and these sorts of guys who, you know, were really keen to come in and play a lot of cricket and hadn't been. And I think that really did us some favours. We obviously were unlucky with some injuries as well, so that T20 side looked quite fresh. There wasn't a lot of lads who had played a lot of cricket. So, you know, it's tough from a skills point of view, but I think the start of a new format always gives people a lot of energy and gives people, you know, a little bit of a fresh start. And we're always expected to get to the final stages, especially the quarters. Obviously, we've gone down in the quarters a few times, but the strength of our squad the last 5 or 6 years has been really good. I mean, that first game, obviously Middlesex are a pretty good side. We haven't had the best record at Radler either. It's quite a difficult place to play. You've got to get your tactics really right. And we didn't. They got off to a fly. It was one of those days where everything they hit in the power play went for 4 or 6 or missed a fielder, and they just got off to an absolute fly, and it was hard to come back. I mean, I think the thing with T20 is it's such a long comp. 14 games is such a long time, and you only need to win 8 maybe. So, you know, 1 loss is never too damaging as long as you can put it right the next week. Everyone looks back to that Somerset game here and you sort of wonder how we didn't win it. You don't mind losing tight ones because, you know, it's always going to come and balance out. Like, you're going to win tight ones, you're going to lose tight ones, but losing games which, you know, 100 times out of 100 you should be winning, that sort of hurts. And I could relay in all 3 formats moments where we've lost or drawn games where we should have won them, and it could have made our season look very different. But in the T20 campaign, that's definitely the one that sticks out, yeah. We should never win that game, Sussex should never lose that game, so things do balance themselves out. I think that game, we didn't bat particularly well. Glenn dug us out of a hole, I think. And, you know, we thought we were in the game with that score. Like, the pitch wasn't great, it was used, it was gripping, so we thought we were always in the game on that sort of pitch. They got off to a great start, Allsop started whacking them, so, you know, we were naturally deflated. I can't really remember what actually started it, but I just remember Smudge and Glenn bowling, and just they sort of had a few brain fades. I took a couple of stump-ins. We took some really good catches in the field, and I think what we found was, you know, their seamers, they didn't have a lot of all-rounders, which, you know, if we get down to 8 or 9 and are batting, those lads can come in and win you a game. They were coming in, like Mills came out at 8, I think, and we always felt that we were in the game with that. And we just executed our skills really well. And then in the last over, Payne just got it right, which was awesome.
Round the wicket, Finn on strike. In the air, Bracey is under it. Is this the match for Gloucester? It is! What a comeback! What a comeback for Gloucestershire! How have they pulled this game off?
You know, rained off games at home, you look at that and think that could have been 4 points or 2 extra points that could have swayed it our way. I don't particularly look at it like that. I could rattle off 3 or 4 games. Obviously, Somerset here, Hampshire away are all games that we would back ourselves to win, and we didn't. So, yeah, it's tricky, and it was probably 1 or 2 more games than other people had rained off. But I definitely look at it as, you know, we could have definitely done it ourselves. That Hampshire game on Sky away was probably the most deflated we were all that season. I think we knew that we probably hadn't played our best throughout the comp, but, you know, I think it's really good when you don't play your best and you still qualify. I think that would have given us a whole lot of confidence. And in that Hampshire game, you know, at halfway, after our batting power play, we're again in the box seat and probably should win it, but couldn't quite get over the line.
I think, you know, it's important to kind of manage expectations to a degree. I think when you lose somebody like Benny Howell and Ian Cobain, you know, from that side, you know, there were some guys who have been a fixture in T20 cricket for us as well, and obviously with Ryan Higgins departing as well, there's some real opportunity for other players to come in and I guess take their white ball cricket forward. And I think it was the right thing for the club in terms of the players that have left the organisation, and also it will provide other opportunities for them as well.
I feel like we have some fantastic young players, that have so much quality talent, raw ability, and it's not really nurturing them on their skill, but it's more like maybe guiding them, or if they come to me about life, and how to almost keep your emotions in check, or how can I say, just keeping your feet on the ground while you are working hard and performing like you are. It's not really, they are where they are for a reason, but it's now just learning how to balance it with other things in life.
There's some real opportunity for other players to come in and I guess take their white ball cricket forward. It's a huge opportunity in the world now in white ball cricket, and we'll look at some of our younger players, whereas in the past there may have been some more experienced players that would have been blocking them to an extent in T20 cricket. There's absolutely a huge chance for them to come and make a statement in T20 cricket next season. If you look at the likes of somebody like Tom Price, who's got some really good ball striking ability, obviously bowls good pace and taking a lot of wickets in the championship, but also he's a good fielder. I think somebody like him, there'll be more opportunity for in T20 cricket if he kind of shows that the growth in his game. And I think how we regenerate that side, our fielding and our general athleticism around the field needs to be sharper than it has been. So I think it's a regeneration to an extent of that T20 side, but equally there's some experienced players within there. Jack Taylor, they're well led. David Payne, for example, has played international white ball cricket now, so there's still some experience in that side which is going to take the team forward, but there will be the opportunity to infuse some younger, athletic and get some greener cricketers within that, which creates a huge amount of opportunity and excitement.
Seizing the word, could say challenging, maybe. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Well, the whole of the Royal London and the end of the season was probably some of the most enjoyable cricket I've played.
The belief and confidence we created in those last couple of games, we will take forward.